ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शांति शांति शांति. Namaskar my dear friends. This is video number 14 on talks with Swami Vivekananda. This video starts with talk number 45. Different grades of devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, different interpretation of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, future of the message of Sri Ramakrishna, place from Calcutta to the Mutt on about year 1902. While walking on the banks of the Ganges at Calcutta one afternoon, the disciple saw a sannyasin in the distance approaching towards Ahiritolia Ghat. Ahiritolia Ghat. When he came near, the disciple found the sannyasin to be no other than his Guru Swami Vivekananda. In his left hand, he had a leaf, a receptacle containing fried gram, which he was eating like a boy and walking his way in great joy. When he stood before him, the disciple fell at his feet and asked the reason of his coming to Calcutta unexpectedly. Swamiji replied, I came on a business. Come, will you go to the mutt? Eat a little of the fried grams. It has a nice saline and pungent taste. The disciple took the food with gladness and agreed to go to the mutt with him. Swamiji, then look for a boat. The disciple hurried to hire a boat. He was settling the amount of the boat hire with the boatman, who demanded 8 annas, when Swamiji also appeared on the scene and stopped the disciple, saying, Why are you haggling with them? And said to the boatman, Very well, I will give you 8 annas, and got into the boat. The boat proceeded slowly against the current and took nearly an hour and a half to reach the mutt. Getting Swamiji alone in the boat, the disciple got an opportunity of asking him freely about all subjects, raising the topic of the glorifactory poem which the disciple had recently composed, singing of the greatness of the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. Swamiji asked him, How do you know that those whom you have named in your hymen are the near and intimate disciples of Sri Ramakrishna? Disciple, sir, I have associated with the sannyasis and householder disciples of Sri Ramakrishna for so many years. I have heard from them that they are all devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. Swamiji, yes, they are devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, but all devotees do not belong to the group of his most intimate and nearest disciples. Staying in the Kasipur garden, Sri Ramakrishna said to us, The Divine Mother showed me that all of these are not my inner devotees. Sri Ramakrishna said so that day with respect to both his men and women devotees. Then, speaking on the way Sri Ramakrishna would indicate different grades among devotees, high and low, Swamiji began to explain to the disciple at length the great difference there is between the householders and the sannyasin's life. Swamiji, is it possible that one would serve the path of lust and wealth and understand Sri Ramakrishna right at the same time? Or will it ever be possible? Never put your faith in such a words. Never put your faith in such words. Many among the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna are now proclaiming themselves as Ishvara Koti, Antaranga, etc. They could not imbibe his great renunciation or dispassion, yet they say they are his intimate devotees. Sweep away all such words. He was a prince of Tyagis, self-renouncers, and obtaining his grace can anybody spend his life in the enjoyment of lust and wealth. Disciple, is it then, sir, that those who came to him at Dakshineswar were not his devotees, Swamiji? Who says that? Everybody who has gone to Sri Ramakrishna has advanced in spirituality, is advancing and will all advance. Sri Ramakrishna used to say that the perfected rishis of a previous kalpa cycle take human bodies and come on earth with the avatars. They are the associates of the Lord. God works through them and propagates his religion. Know this for a truth that they alone are the associates of the avatara who have renounced all self for the sake of others, who, giving up all sense enjoyment with repugnance, spend their lives for the good of the world, for the welfare of the jivas. The disciples of Jesus were all sannyasis, the direct recipients of the grace of Sankara, Ramanuja, Sri Chaitanya, and Buddha were the all renouncing sannyasis. It is men of this time who have been through a succession of disciples spreading the Brahma Vidya in the world. Where and when have you heard that a man being the slave of lust and wealth has been able to liberate another or to show the path of God to him? Without himself being free, how can he make others free? In Veda, Vedanta, Itihasa, history, Purana, ancient tradition, you will find everywhere that the sannyasis have been the teachers of religion in all ages and climes. History repeats itself. It will also be likewise now. The capable sannyasin, children of Sri Ramakrishna, the teacher of the great synthesis of religions, will be honored everywhere as the teachers of man. The words of others will dissipate in the air like an empty sound. The real self-sacrificing sannyasis of the mutt will be the center of the preservation and spread of religious ideas. Do you understand? Disciple, then is it not true what the household devotees of Sri Ramakrishna are preaching about him in diverse ways? Swamiji, it cannot be said that they are altogether false, but what they are saying about Sri Ramakrishna are all partial truths. According to one's own capacity, one has understood Sri Ramakrishna and so is discussing about him. It is not bad either to do so, but if any one of his devotees has concluded that what he has understood of him is the only truth, then he is an object of pity. Some are saying that Sri Ramakrishna was a Tantrika and Kola, some that he was Sri Chaitanya born on earth to preach Nardiya Bhakti. Some again that it is opposed to faith in him as an avatara to practice sadhana, while some are opining that it is not agreeable to his teachings to take to sannyasa. You will hear such words from the household devotees, but do not listen to such one-sided estimates. What he was, the concentrated embodiment of how many previous avatars we could not understand a bit even spending the whole life in religious austerity. Therefore, one has to speak about him with caution and restraint, as are one's capacities to that extent that he filled him with ideas one spray from the full ocean of his spirituality, if realized, will make gods of man such a synthesis of universal ideas you will not find in the history of the world again. Understand from this who was born in the person of Sri Ramakrishna. When he used to instruct his sannyasin disciples, he would rise from his seat and look about if any householder was coming that way or not. If he found none, then in glowing words he would depict the glory of renunciation and tapasya. As a result of the rousing power of that fiery dispassion, we have renounced the world and become averse to worldliness. Disciple. He used to make such distinctive between householder and sannyasin. Swamiji, ask and learn from the householder devotees themselves about it, and you yourself can think and know which are greater those of his children who for the realization of God have renounced all enjoyments of the worldly life and are spending themselves in the practice of austerities on hills and forests, tirthas and asramas, holy places, or those who are praising and glorifying His name and practicing His remembrance, but are not able to rise above the delusion and bondage of the world. Which are greater, those who are coming forward in the service of humanity, regarding them as the Atma, those who are continent since early age, who are the moving embodiments of renunciation and dispassion, or those who, like flies, are at one time sitting on a flower and at the next moment on a dung heap. You can yourself think and come to a conclusion. Disciple, but sir, what is the world for these who obtained His grace? Whether they remain in the householder's life or take to sannyasa, it is immaterial, so it appeared to me. Swamiji, the mind of those who have truly received His grace cannot be attached to worldliness. The test of His grace is unattachment to lust or wealth. If that has not come in anyone's life, then he has not truly received His grace. When the above discussion ended thus, the disciple, raising another topic, asked Swamiji, Sir, what is the outcome of all your labors here and in foreign countries? Swamiji, you will see only a little manifestation of what has been done. In time, the whole world must accept the universal and Catholic ideas of Sri Ramakrishna, and of this. Only the beginning has been made. Before this flood, everybody will be swept off. Disciple, please tell me more about Sri Ramakrishna. I like very much to hear of him from your mouth. Swamiji, you are hearing so much about him all the time. What more, he himself is his own parallel. Has he any exemplar? Disciple, what is the way for us who have not seen him? Swamiji, you have been blessed with the company of these sadhus who are the direct recipients of his grace. How then can you say you have not seen him? He is present among his sannyasin disciples. By service to them, he will in time be revealed in your heart. In time, you will realize everything. Disciple, but sir, you speak about others who have received his grace, but never about what he used to say about yourself. Swamiji, what shall I say about myself? You see, I must be one of his demons. In his presence, even I would sometimes speak ill of him, hearing which he would laugh. Saying thus, Swamiji's face assumed a grave aspect, and he looked towards the river with an absent mind and sat still for some time. Within a short time, the evening fell and the boat also reached the mud. Swamiji was then humming a tune to himself. Now, in the evening of life, take the child back to his home. When the song was finished, Swamiji said, in your part of the country, eastern Bengal, sweet-voiced singers are not born. Without drinking the water of Mother Ganges, a sweet musical voice is not acquired. After paying the hire, Swamiji descended from the boat and taking off his coat sat in the western veranda of the mutt. His fair complexion and ochre robe presented a beautiful sight. Token number 46. Denationalization and national degradation. Direction about spiritual practice. Place Belur Mutt, year 1902. Today is the first of Asar, Asad. The disciple has come to the mutt before dusk from Bali with his office dress on, as he has not found time to change it. Coming to the mutt, he prostrated himself at the feet of Swamiji and inquired about his health. Swamiji replied that he was well, but looking at his dress, he said, you put on coat and trousers, why don't you put on collars? Saying this, he called Swami Shardananda, who was near, and said, give him tomorrow 2 collars from my stock. Swami Shardananda bowed assent to his order. The disciple then changed his office dress and came to Swamiji, who, addressing him, said, by giving up one's national costume and ways of eating and living, one gets denationalized. One can learn from all, but that a learning which leads to denationalization does not help one's uplift but becomes the cause of degradation. Disciple, sir, one cannot do without putting on dress approved by superior European officers in official quarters. Swamiji, no one prevents that. In the interest of your service, you put on official dress in official quarters, but on returning home, you should be a regular Bengali Babu with flowing cloth, a native shirt, and with chadar on the shoulder. Do you understand, disciple? Yes, sir. Swamiji, you go about from house to house only with the European shirt on. In the West, to go about visiting people with simply the shirt on is ungentlemanly. One is considered naked. Without putting on a coat over the shirt, you will not be welcomed in a gentleman's house. What nonsense have you learned to intimate in the matter of dress? Boys and young men nowadays adopt a peculiar mode of dress which is neither Indian nor Western but a queer combination. After such talk, Swamiji began to pace the banks of the river, and the disciple was alone with him. He was hesitating to ask Swamiji a question about religious practice. Swamiji, what are you thinking of? Out with it, the disciple, with great delicacy said, Sir, I have been thinking that if you can teach me some method by which the mind becomes calm within a short time, by which I may be immersed in meditation quickly, I shall feel much benefited. In the round of worldly duties, I feel it difficult to make the mind steady in meditation at the time of spiritual practice. Swamiji seemed delighted at this humility and earnestness of the disciple. In reply, he affectionately said, after some time, come to me when I am alone upstairs. I will talk to you about it. Coming up shortly after, the disciple found that Swamiji was sitting in meditation facing the west. His face wore a wonderful expression and his whole body was completely motionless. The disciple stood by looking on the figure of Swamiji in meditation with speechless wonder, and when even after standing long he found no sign of external consciousness in Swamiji, he sat noiselessly by. After half an hour, Swamiji seemed to show signs of a return to external consciousness. The disciple found that his folded hands began to quiver, and a few minutes later Swamiji opened his eyes and looking at the disciple said, When did you come? Disciple, a short while ago, Swamiji. Very well, get me a glass of water. The disciple hurriedly brought a glass of water and Swamiji, drinking a little, asked the disciple to put the glass back in its proper place. The disciple did so and again said by Swamiji, Swamiji, today I had a very deep meditation disciple. Sir, please teach me so that my mind also may get absorbed in meditation. Swamiji, I have already told you all the methods. Meditate every day accordingly, and in the fullness of time you will feel like that. Now tell me what form of sadhana appeals to you most. Disciple, sir, I practice every day as you have told me, still I don't get a deep meditation. Sometimes I think it is useless for me to practice meditation, so I feel that I shall not fare well in it and therefore now desire only eternal companionship with you. Swamiji, those are weaknesses of the mind. Always try to get absorbed in the eternally present Atma. If once you get the vision of the Atma, you get everything, the bonds of birth and death will be broken. Disciple, you bless me to attend to it. You asked me to come alone today, so I have come. By some means, do please make my mind steady. Swamiji, meditate whenever you get time. If the mind once enters the path of Susumana, everything will get right. You will not have to do much after that. Disciple, you encourage me in many ways, but shall I be blessed with a vision of the truth? Shall I get freedom by attaining true knowledge? Swamiji, yes, of course. Everybody will attain mukti from a warm up to Burma and shall you alone fail? These are weaknesses of the mind. Never think of such things. After this, he said again, be possessed of Shraddha, faith of Virya, courage, virya, attend to the knowledge of the Atma and sacrifice your life for the good of others. This is my wish and blessing. The bell for the meal ringing at this moment, Swamiji asked the disciple to go and partake of it. The disciple, prostrating at the feet of Swamiji, prayed for his blessings. Swamiji, putting his hand on his head, blessed him and said, "If my blessings be of any good to you, I say, may Bhagwan Sri Ramana Krishna give you his grace. I know of no blessing higher than this." After meals, the disciple did not go upstairs to Swamiji, who had retired early that night. Next morning, the disciple, having to return to Calcutta in the interest of his business, appeared before Swamiji upstairs. "Swamiji, will you go immediately?" Disciple, "Yes, sir." "Swamiji, come again next Sunday, won't you?" Disciple, "Yes, certainly." "Swamiji, all right, there is a boat coming." The disciple took leave of Swamiji. He did not know that this was to be his last meeting with his Ishtadeva, chosen ideal, in the physical body. Swamiji, with a glad heart, bade him farewell and said, "Come on Sunday." The disciple replied, "Yes, I will," and got downstairs. The boatmen were calling for him, so he ran for the boat. Boarding it, he saw Swamiji pacing the upper veranda, and saluting him, he entered the boat. 7 days after this, Swamiji passed away from mortal life. The disciple had got no knowledge of the impending catastrophe. Getting the news on the second day of Swamiji's passing away, he came to the mutt, and therefore he had not the good fortune to see his physical form again. So I end this video here. Please like, comment and share the video. Subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot. Namaskar, my dear friends.